So, first of all, last week we didn't have the technician here on the camera like we have today. And so when we went to turn the record button on, I guess there's like 50 or 60 people who listen to this. They got my, we got my arm or something over here. And so now you get all of this, okay? They get the whole works, all right? I'm back. It wasn't for any drama. They just bumped the camera. Daniel chapter 3. When I read through Bible stories and you see all these people, you know, and all the great things they've done and how God's just always been with them, it seems like, you know, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Joseph, you know, Moses, you know, he gets in trouble, God just parts the Red Sea. People are hungry, we'll just bring bread from heaven. You know, it seems like, it's like God's always there. Like they don't have a problem in the world. You know, David sees Goliath, he's like, not a problem, I'll just hit him with my slingshot. It's just like, what's with those guys? You got this relationship with them and all these wonderful things happen. How about bringing some down to 2024 Langdon, North Dakota, right? But as a matter of fact, God is with us. God has never left us. He is probably stronger in each and every one of us here today in the relationship we have with Him through His Son than anyone in the Old Testament, really. I mean, just looking at stuff. And Jesus said, by the way, I will never leave you. In fact, His name is Emmanuel, which means God is with us. So He's here, and He's here. Unfortunately, I have heard a few teachings on when things go wrong in your life, and there's a little bit of setback and grief. There's sin in your life. That's why you're unrepentant. You need, you know, and it's like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I didn't put enough stamps in an envelope or something. They think I'm stealing. You know, I don't know what it is. I don't know that sin, you know, that the guy keeps telling me I'm in. And that's not true at all. It doesn't, I mean, if there is sin, I mean, you got to take care of that. But sometimes crud happens in your life. There's just events. There are other people other than yourself that you have to deal with. Otherwise, it'd be a perfect world, would it not? But that person comes, or that person comes, or that situation comes, and bad things, at least. Now, I think about David, and you think, man, the guy's anointed as a king, he slays Goliath, but he was on the run for many years of his life, a few years of his life. King Saul wanted to kill him. And in the midst of all that, David writes this Psalm 23. God's my shepherd, I get green pastures, I get these calm waters, my soul is revived, right? He leads me on the path that is righteous. What could go wrong? Next verse, though I'm in the valley of the shadow of death. It's like, God, how about a different path than this path of righteousness? But that's life, is it not? Everyone's going to come into some kind of trauma, some kind of event, some kind of temptation that wants to get you off of this relationship with God. Daniel chapter 1 and 2, before we get to 3, just a recap. Israel has really rebuked God. The priests, the kings, the nobles, lots of these people, and they're worshiping all kinds of gods and doing all kinds of bad things. God's warned them. And now the Babylonians have knocked on their door, and it's opened. And all of Jerusalem now has been defeated. In a place where God said, I will never leave you. In a temple where God said, I'll have my name here forever if you will obey me. You know, if you will follow my laws, I'm with you, 100%. I'll be there. I will bless you. I will shield and protect you. But when you break that relationship, I can't look down upon you and your sinful nature, okay? But he always wants you to come back. So you have a number of rebellious people, but there's some good people. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, we know at least those 4 guys, and there's others who have maintained their faith in God. And yet, they were caught up with the rest of their world, were they not? Here's good people, good faithful people. I'm sure they prayed, God, be our shield and protector, but God came in. I mean, not God, but the Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians, they came in, breached the walls, and now those guys are all lined up watching the soldiers go and ransack wherever they wanted. They went into the temples, they went into the stores, they went into the houses, whatever they want. They lined everybody up in the streets, and they did a few things, and I'm going to just read very quickly a little verse from 2 Kings 24. As the Lord, through the ministry of Jeremiah, as the Lord declared, Nebuchadnezzar, he removed the treasures from the temple of the Lord, from the royal palace. He cut up the gold articles that Solomon, king of Israel, had made for the temple of the Lord. He carried all Jerusalem into exile. All of the officers or the noblemen, all of the fighting men, and everyone who was a skilled worker or an artisan. He carried all the best of the best. A total of 10,000 men. Only the poorest of the land were left. He took the best from Jerusalem, and they went off with him. These 10,000 Jews, Daniel included, in 605 BC, okay, along with Egyptians and Philistines and I'm sure Syrians and Moabites and all those people that he's conquered, now they're all back in Babylon. That's all part of chapter 1. Along with chapter 1, we also see that Daniel and his friends decided, even though we're taken away from our God, our temple, our city, our family, and we're here captive in Babylon, subjected to this pagan king and all of their temple and religious and gods that they have out there, we will not defile ourselves. We're in a bad place. We'll do the best we can for them. I'll be a good citizen, so to speak, but we will not defile ourselves. And so the very first temptation they had was to eat all of the food that from the king's table. All this great food was before them. And instead of going, well, I'll just make an exception. I'll compromise my faith. It's just food. They said no, and they ate just vegetables and drank just water with permission, and they gained more fat, they looked more healthy, more heavier in 10 days than all the other people who were getting to eat all the, banana splits and donuts and whatever. Those guys just had vegetables and water, and they gained weight. That's why I don't have any vegetables in my house. It's all, no. That was God. That was a miracle of God, so don't go on that, all right? The second test they had came in chapter 2 of Daniel. Now these guys were placed, because they were so bright, intelligent, that they were placed in a group of all the wisest men of Babylon, and they were going to teach them the language, the customs, and whatever, so that they could serve in the palace somewhere. It's an immense place. It's huge, okay? They were going to serve in some capacity under these other wise people, wise men, whatever. The magicians, the astrologers or Chaldeans, the conjurers, all of those people were considered the wisest. They had that's where some of the Jews went. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were 4 of those people with them. Nebuchadnezzar has a dream in chapter 2. Wanted that dream told to him what it was and interpreted. Nobody could do it. Daniel and his friends pray. Daniel comes back to the king, and he's able to interpret it because God gave him the interpretation. And so I want to read just that little verse from chapter 2, verse 36, because it kind of goes with our chapter 3. Daniel goes before the king Nebuchadnezzar and says, "This was the dream, and now we will interpret it to the king. Your Majesty, you are the King of Kings. The God of heaven has given you dominion and power and might and glory. In your hands he has placed all mankind and the beasts of the field and the birds of the sky. Wherever they live, he has made you ruler over them all. You, O King Nebuchadnezzar, are the head of gold. So if you remember, if you weren't, people weren't here last week, Nebuchadnezzar saw in a dream this statue, head of gold, shoulders and arms of silver, bronze belly and thighs, and then iron legs, bottom of his legs. And so he's explaining that you, King Nebuchadnezzar, are King of kings and Lord of lords. My God put you in this position. You are this head of gold. And if I was Nebuchadnezzar, I'd be going, that's right, I'm the head of gold. All right, I'm at the top of this, right? Now, that's going to kind of help kick us off into chapter 3 as to why he does what he does. And there's got to be some time. It doesn't tell us how much time, but there must be, I'm saying at least months, maybe even into the years, from the time the dream was interpreted. And remember, when he interpreted that dream, remember what he did? He bowed down and worshiped Daniel and Daniel's God, and called Daniel's God the God of all gods. So he placed him at the top, okay? Now with all of that, we'll read chapter 3, verse 1 through 7. Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold, the height of which was 60 cubits, and its width 6 cubits. He set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent word to assemble the satraps, the prefects, and the governors, and the counselors, the treasurers, the judges, the magistrates, of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then the satraps and all those other guys, all the rulers of the provinces, they assembled for the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. There's a lot of repeating of, Then the herald loudly proclaimed, "To you the command is given, O peoples, nations, and men of every language, that at the moment you hear the sound of the horn, flute, lyre, trigon, psaltery, bagpipe, and all kinds of music, you are to fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up. But whoever does not fall down and worship shall immediately be cast into the midst of a furnace of blazing fire. Therefore, at that time, when all the peoples heard the sound of all that music, all the people, all the nations, all the men of every language, they fell down and they worshiped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up." So, couple things. First of all, I used to think that that image of gold was an image of him. It never says that. It never says he made an image of himself. So it's possible he's trying to make an image of what he saw in his dream, because he was in that dream and he's looking at this image. Daniel saw the same thing that Nebuchadnezzar saw, so maybe it's that. We don't know. It doesn't really make too much difference. It is an image. It is an idol, correct? It is 90 feet tall. It is the height of a 10-story building. It's close to, if you go down 3rd Street and you look at and you stop at the Catholic Church, I happen to notice how high that cross is up there. It's pretty close to that measurement, okay? It's getting there. 90 feet tall, 9 feet wide at the base. All gold, all gold. This statue is put into this wilderness, flat wilderness area. It would be a tremendous landmark, all gold, sun hitting it. It must have gleamed and shone for miles and miles. You can see it. You can't say I got lost, I don't know where, I don't know, someplace over here. You'll be able to find that statue he's made, that image he's made. Anybody ever drive the eastern 2/3 of Montana? Well, good for you. I feel sorry for you. I went there twice. It's the flattest piece of nothing I've ever seen. It's like kids, there's a tree over there. Look at the tree over there. It's like 50 miles away. You can see a tree that's 30, 40 feet tall, right? It's a landmark. That's a tree in a flat wilderness area. I can't imagine a 100-foot statue of gold in the middle of this place. It must have been a tremendous thing for lots of people around to see. That's now. Why was it there? What was he trying to do? Certainly, there was other gods that they worshipped, and he allowed the worship of all the other gods. They didn't care. They didn't want to offend anybody, right? Everyone's included. But for some reason, he's got this image that he made of gold, and again, his head is gold. And then they all gather together. All of the rulers, all of the civil people who got jobs from him. Now, it might have been others. It might have been part of the population as well. Hard to know. But here it just says the rulers, the people who were over all these people, and they kind of mention it. And by the way, unlike this church service, his church service is mandatory, or else. Mandatory, or it's the fiery furnace. I say bring that back. Well, laughing now, but when you see that barbecue in the back, you're like, oh my gosh, he was serious. Well, Nebuchadnezzar's empire was vast. And he's like the king, just like we have a president, and then there's governors over the states, and we have mayors and people over the cities, and even county people over some of the rural stuff. They did the same thing. That's how you got government. That's how you get communication back and forth and things to do. So he takes the couriers and he sends them all out to this whole domain. And a satrap would have been like a governor over a province of the whole empire of Babylon. A prefect would be like a mayor over a city or a village or an area. And these governors are more like administrators, helping do, we need a bridge over here, we got to get a road through here so that we can have, something, a Walmart put up there and everybody can get to it, travel back and forth. All of those people received their commissions from the king, and it's hard to know exactly how many people that would encounter, but I looked up, and I don't know how they know that exactly, so it's just a guess. It's mostly the size of what they find. They think the city of Babylon, just the city, was about 250,000 people. So that would be like taking a wall and encompassing all of Fargo and Moorhead, that whole area, 250,000 people. That was Babylon. Pretty impressive. Now that was just the city. He still has this vast empire, and all these people have to come in from there. So I get no idea how many people that's going to be touching, but the king has an edict. And everyone gets a little letter in the mail, right? It gets delivered to them, to every governor, satrap, treasurer, magistrate, judge, all of these people. I'm guessing into the thousands of these people. All have a thing that says, come Sunday, September 1st, everybody better be there. This is the place, this is the time. Wait for further instructions, and probably a little or else. You didn't want to get the or else thing screwed up with Nebuchadnezzar. Anyway, now they're all gathered together. And again, how many people are gathered at this 100-foot long monument? And all in this, it must be a vast amount. I'm guessing into the thousands on the plain of Dura. When they hear this music playing, when they hear the worship, it's going to be very specific. You have to do something. When Emily started playing her worship music, every once in a while I look around and nobody does anything. They sing, but in some places, now this is just me, but in some places, when I went to my first Pentecostal church 42 years ago, I was not used to it, but they started clapping to the music. And I went, what in the world are those heathen doing? Where have I got myself? And then you start seeing this, you know. I'm like, what's the deal? I wasn't used to, I didn't know what that was, but that's, you know, when they heard the music, that's what some people did. But we don't have you have to do this or that at music. It's okay. You can put your hands in your pocket, you can raise them up. You could do a little dance in the back if you want, I don't care. But for Nebuchadnezzar's worship service, you will put your face on the ground and I'll face that idol. You are to worship it. When that music plays, you are this is a place of holiness in his mind, okay? Everyone had to do that. And again, if you don't, they knew the penalty of that. You will go into a furnace, a fiery furnace. We're going to toss you in there. You're going to look like, you know, a marshmallow that falls off a stick at camp. You are going to be burnt to a crisp. There'll be nothing left of you. And I mean, that'd give me some incentive. That would maybe make me think, maybe I should bow down this one time. And that really kind of brings me to the point. When do we do what the government tells us to do? Just because the law telling us to do it. When do we kind of go, well, God, I'll bow down, but I don't really mean it? Is that, anybody would do that? Instead of going to the furnace, would you go, well, God knows that in my heart, I'm all his, I'll just bow down. And that might be true. You can do that at your workplace. You can do that, you know, wherever you are. But you know what everyone else thinks? You bow down to the idol. They don't know that in your heart you didn't bow down. You just did it physically. Next week we're going to look at it just a little deeper about, you know, when we should do things and when we shouldn't. And really what it all is how faithful you want to be. Really, what is your connection to God? How strong is that? Are you like these guys who went, I will not defile myself. I don't care what it is. I will not defile myself. And they had a little test with the food. Oh, that was all right. And the dream thing, they didn't have a clue what was going on. They just went and prayed, and God gave Daniel that vision at night. So that happened, okay? But they have not been tested about their faith, not really. Not where the whole world can go, do you know what he's doing over here? Or do you know what he's not doing over here that he's supposed to be doing? And so you fight with this. You know what Jesus said? Give unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. And so there's this, we're supposed to submit to government, and I'm not trying to tell anybody not to do that. And we're supposed to pray for our people in leadership, and I want everybody to do that too. But there are times where we need to always, not times, there's always going to be, we need to stand up as a Christian. We need to stand up for the things of God and Jesus. Just because you do something, think, well, everyone else is doing it and everybody's okay with it, does not mean God said, yeah, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and miss that, or go ahead and do that. That's not it at all. And so we have this music that plays, you know Pavlov's dog? You guys have heard of Pavlov's dog? He was this psychologist who wanted to check on human behavior, and so what do we do? Behavior first to see if it works. And so he rings this bell. Well, the dog didn't know what the bell meant, but he rings this bell. Eventually the dog's like, what do you want? He goes, I want to give you a treat. So he gets a little meat. And then maybe a day later, he rings the bell again and is like, last time I got a treat. And so he comes back, gets a treat. He does that a few times. As soon as he rings the bell, the dog's like, I'm hungry, give me it. And so he's able to change the behavior of that dog and train him by, as soon as that bell comes, boom. And then he would not give him the treat for a while. You know what the dog did? He started salivating. I want that treat. He just sit there, well, give me that. And so he elicits certain behavior in that dog from something else. That's what the world does, by the way. There's certain music that plays. There's certain things that have happened in your life. And when you hear it again, you have the same reaction. Somebody does this to you, I'm angry with them. Somebody does this to you, I want revenge on them. Somebody does this or something happens in your life, and And we tend to do that. Our faith is divided into two parts. Wood, hay, and stubble, which will burn in the fire of God. That's come judgment day. Or gold, silver, and precious stones. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are like, we don't have any wood, hay, or stubble. Our faith is true. We will never compromise. I don't care what everyone else is doing. And that's how. And those are the challenges. Now, challenges everyone gets. Isn't that nice? Universal. Everyone's going to have a challenge. I don't know about today or next week, but we all go through them. Some of them are very harsh. Some of them are horrible. Deaths and accidents and surgeries, cancers. Those are hard trials, challenges to go through. And some of them aren't quite so bad, and some of them it's like every day. Some of them like, how about a day without a challenge, right? I want one day without a challenge just to see what it feels like. But how do you react to it? To the music that plays? Do you think, well, I'm angry, so I'm going to go take a drink, or I feel so alone in my life and everyone's against me, and so you all of a sudden you maybe go into pornography. And people do all kinds of things when they hear that music playing. It tends to change our behavior, tends to make us want to do something else that we shouldn't. And God is the one who's going to get you out of all that. Your faithfulness in God, your strength with God is the only thing that's going to destroy that music that you hear and have it anything but a time of worship in His name. Let's pray. Dear Lord, I believe we've all felt rejection at times. We felt angry or lonely. Or sometimes we feel guilt. We hear that music that we're guilty of something. We feel guilt. We just can't get rid of it. That's just Satan telling you you're no good, or you're not really forgiven, or can God really take this away from you? And He's that sick music that we hear all the time. He's that temptation that makes you want to bow down to that illness, that sickness, that anger, that bitterness, that loneliness. He wants you to do that. He wants to change your behavior. It's just like that dog hearing that bell. But we have a God who took every one of those things and had His son nailed on the cross just for that, just for you. If Jesus Christ can defeat sin and death for you and I, what else do you need? What other help do you need, really? I just pray, Lord God, that we would submit our hearts to you in full. And Lord, that we would be like these young kids who are captive from their homes and now placed in a strange land 900 miles away, in strange language, strange gods, and we would say, I will not defile myself, not another day. Lord, you are holy, and you expect us to be holy as well. Father, I just prayed that you'd give us the strength and courage to fight the good fight and finish this race in your name. Amen.